Rock. We're back. Agent X may join, depending on his availability. Feel free to call in. However, I have the number on top. And so I'll be taking call-in listeners later in the show if anyone calls in. Big news related to uh, NATO and the Americans blaming Russia for a Viasat cyber attack, taking down internet in Ukraine right before the invasion. Who knows who actually did that? Uh, this is a story from Whale 05, or rather May 10th, from Reuters, showing a digital assault against Viasat's KC 135, KA SAT network. So I warned about some of the Viasat attacks based on the intelligence sources that I had back on July 26th, 2021, where SpaceX was sued by Viasat related to launching its Starlink satellites at the same altitude as Viasat satellites. And the argument in Viasat's lawsuit, and they filed an injunction that was tossed out by a circuit court. And that was related to the fact that Viasat thought that if their satellites were to go down, and again, this is back in July and August of 2021, that the collateral damage from its satellites could knock out Starlink satellites and vice versa. They were aware that something was up, especially with Russian aggression in Ukraine and the reliance on the Ukrainian military to some of these systems, especially Viasat's system. And the other interesting thing about that is that Joe Biden at the time, this is when there was some upheaval and protest in Cuba, and he played it off as like SpaceX is providing internet in Cuba because the Cuban authorities, the government there, had shut the internet off. We had a state judge in New York lifting the contempt order or the contempt fine against Trump and ordered him to pay about $110,000. However, now that court wants statements from Trump about his use of Post-it notes. Again, this is a perjury trap, wanting an affidavit directly from Trump. So the perjury trap continues. So here's the story from ABC about lifting the $110,000. We had the Senate failing to do anything about the Roe v. Wade Dobbs leak, which will only accelerate some of the protests across the country from these left-wing, unhinged, radical nuts. The other thing I wanted to touch on today is both CERN and the fact that there's been a lot of media about AI researchers from big tech quitting, citing work from home policies as the reason that they're quitting. And this is like a smokescreen, because I think Agent X, when he was talking about this before, hit on something really important, which is based on all the information he has and knows, these singularity concepts related to machine learning and AI are related, at least in part, to a lot of the research in the past 10 years. And so Ian Goodfellow at Apple, he had invented what is known as a generative adversarial network. The acronym is GAN. And so what a GAN is applying game theory to machine learning. It's having two models compete against each other in a zero-sum game. Not to get into the technical details that are fairly complex, but essentially you have a generator and a discriminator. And the objective of the generator is to fool the discriminator. And at the point when the generator can fool the discriminator at least 50% of the time, the generator wins that game. There are little tweaks on this idea, using a referee in the middle that's also a neural network. So these are two types of neural networks competing against each other for the best solution. Again, applying game theory to machine learning. But yeah, this is what Ian Goodfellow did a lot of research on. I can't remember if he did his dissertation on this. It's very well possible that he did. But this is really the basis of deepfakes, for example. So the images, and there's a good example of this in this actual Wikipedia. So these two images are created by a GAN model. And so this is actually a completely fake person. This person does not exist. This image was produced with artificial intelligence. I wouldn't know the difference. I don't think anybody else would know the difference. So, the rise of deepfakes, GANs, and how that relates to singularity and robots becoming increasingly powerful in our society. And we've seen that over the past, almost accelerated over the past 3 years. So it's either scary or dangerous. It's one of the two. I'm going to check my messages here. So Agent Low T might be calling in. The interview line is open. I'll wait for that call whenever it occurs. We do have the Americans blaming Russians for these hacks on these satellites and this infrastructure in general, as explained at the outset of this particular show. And there's an interesting theory about this because it happened right before Russia invaded Ukraine. So obviously it very well could be Russians doing this, but is this a way to undermine any future hacks on infrastructure where it's actually NATO or American assets doing the hacking, but then blaming Russians in part because they're laying these seeds, right? This is a seed. And they laid the seed again back in, I called it out in July, on July 26th, 2021, about Viasat being used as a war proxy to kind of prepare at least the use of these satellites in this space warfare. The other interesting thing about warfare in space now is that when Trump created Space Force, what was it, back in like 2019 or 2008? Or, I mean, 2018? Not 2008. Is that for whatever reason, Americans largely dominated space. I mean, the initial space race between Russia and the Americans back in the 50s and 60s was minor compared to the dominance that the Americans had over over space until recently with the launch of all these satellites and so forth. And one of the major um, issues in space, just like it is on Earth, is territorial boundaries. Who owns that particular space? And these satellites have to, operate somewhat independently. Agent Loti is calling in right now. Agent Loti, are you there?
Hey, fag in the box. What's up?
Agent Loti, I can barely hear you.
Dude, that's your audio, man. Your audio sucks. Your stream sucks.
Let me click out of my. Okay, now I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Dude, your stream sucks. It's the worst stream on YouTube.
Well, your name
Objectively
sucks,
speaking.
Agent Loti.
Dude, your agent tranny pants.
Your Agent Loti.
Dude, okay, Agent Tranny.
Agent Loti.
Dude, we know you have to get your lifts for your shoes.
Well,
I mean, how does it feel being, 5'2"?
no,
You have to look up at everything, don't you?
I'm actually. Well, you said before I was 4'10", right? So you took about a foot off
Well,
my
I'm
height.
talking I'm talking about how tall you are with your lifts in.
I was actually thinking about this, and I am. Okay, so I looked at Jen Psaki's height, and she's actually 5'4", 5'5". I was wrong. You were wrong. More importantly, you were wrong. She's 5'5", and you claim that she's really short. So what
What
do
do
you
you
have
want
to
me to
say
say
about
about
that?
that? Well, she's taller than you. That's all we know.
Jen Psaki. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about Trump's perjury thing? The other thing I wanted to touch on is CERN, and that why is the World Economic Forum blowing up CERN in terms of like talking about it, promoting it, and they interestingly talk about the God particle, and they call it the goddamn particle, which
Because
was
it's part
its
of the
original name.
because it's part of the transhumanist agenda.
Yeah, but that's like a euphemism at this point. I mean, is there like a real theory why the World Economic Forum wants to sort of be entangled, no pun intended with CERN, and maybe
Because these
why?
people at the World Economic Forum, they're basically Satan worshippers, right? They believe they do sacrifices to Moloch. Um, you know, it's crazy. Um, and that's exactly what CERN does. If you've seen those videos of them doing the ritualistic dances and shows at the particle accelerator, it's really weird. And so it's like a tenet of their religion, right? Is that they believe that, um, in interdimensional beings, and they believe that Malik is a interdimensional being, and they do weird sacrifices to him. That's why you see at when Alex Jones went to Bohemian Grove and they were doing sacrifices to the owl. That's exactly what they were doing. The ritualistic sacrifices to Moloch. It's crazy, weird stuff.
You have an image here of the actual collision of particles in uh, in their particle accelerator, um, and how sort of the sensors are projecting the trajectory of every single electron or whatever else is being hit here. Um, anyways, let's go back to something that's a little more tangible, just to talk briefly about, which is I think Trump's contempt was lifted, right? $10,000 a day, but
No, it wasn't. It wasn't lifted. They gave him a purge condition, so he has to pay $110,000. He has to hire an outside firm to do the search for the documents, and then I guess, officers of the Trump organization have to submit sworn statements. So I think he has until the 20th or the 21st to comply. But if he doesn't comply and meet all the demands, then it starts accumulating back uh, at $10,000 a day from May 7th. So he's so it's like again, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. They're setting a perjury trap for him, right? And they are basically, in order for him to get this huge financial penalty lifted, he's going to have to give some neutral or outside firm access to his documents, right? So, which we know is never fair, and it's just going to be a source for leaks and a source for entrapment. And yeah, this is designed to fuck Trump over. So I bet you probably the beginning of June, we're going to see another order that said that Trump failed to comply with the order, and he's been hit with $10,000 a day retroactively to May 7th. And it's going to be just a cumulative thing, right? So they have to give this these biased political courts, right? Every once in a while, they will give an appearance that they're acting fair, right? So you see the headline, oh, Trump can purge the contempt, but that's not really what it is. They just set another trap for him. And they set a deeper trap because not only does before he could have just provided a sworn affidavit to get the perjury or to get the contempt order lifted, but now he's got the additional requirements that he has to pay $110,000, and he's got to give an outside firm access to his corporate documents to do searching, which is, I would say, a bullshit and substantially harsher um, purge condition, and it's just setting him up even further to be entrapped and them to bring, you know, charges against him, criminal charges, more lawsuits, more contempt orders. It's really bad.
it's a minefield.
Yeah, exactly. But they issue this order and the media covers it like, oh, they let Trump off the hook, and that's not what happened. They, he's deeper in the shit now than he was yesterday.
Yeah. So I looked at the story in passing. So again, your analysis is really in depth. I don't know how much research you did on this. Probably read a couple more articles than I did, but um, I did see that it was contingent on you know issuing more sworn statements, affidavits about whatever Trump's use of post-it notes were, whatever that means. So I'm assuming that it was just going to continue forward, but they were temporarily lifting the civil fine portion of it as long as he complies with the rest of the order. So yeah, that's the thing about this contempt stuff, purge conditions is it's I mean, maybe not in Trump's position because he has billions of dollars, but even in Trump's position, it becomes exhausting because they set a minefield for you if they really don't like you. And again, this typically only happens to people that they really don't like, and they're unable to go after criminally because these people aren't criminals. That's the whole thing about civil contempt. It's for people who are not criminals, but for people like Trump who fight things to the end, refuse to give in, refuse to bend their knee. So yeah, people like Trump or me. It's typically what they do. They just issue all these contempt orders, and if you don't comply, like letter by the letter, then they really just want to destroy and ruin your life, and it's a sad thing. So it's terrible. Anyways, okay. Agent X, what do you think about GANs, generative adversarial networks? And I just pulled up kind of like a recent article from today about, Google using AI based technology, whether this is machine learning based or, yeah, it looks like it's. See, that's the thing. They're not releasing the exact algorithm or the exact tech stacks that they're using for this stuff. But okay, so Google is using
Well, if it's
image
in a published
analysis.
paper, if it's in a published paper, there should be a GitHub repository tied to it, because generally they have to release the source code to pass peer review. So it's probably out there somewhere. But I think that I'm not familiar with this neural network specifically, but I think it was used where we were talking about how something similar was used with when Facebook had the chat bots and they started talking to each other and they started after a while they began talking to each other in uh, in their own language, right? Um, so they developed their own language and started talking to each other, and they had to pull the plug on it. But these networks are scary because uh, there's a picture of Zuckerberg, um, and everyone behind him is an AI generated person. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, here you go. Here you go. I mean, and there is, there's the problem, right, of the uncanny valley, and you see it in movies, like when they in Justice League they had to go and digitally remove Henry Cavill's mustache, and it looked terrible because it's very hard to generate an accurate looking person digitally. It's called the uncanny valley. Um, and with this machine learning software, they're coming closer and closer to overcoming the uncanny valley. And pretty soon, we're not going to be able to distinguish between real people we see online and fakes. So in the chat, I just sent you the Zuckerberg picture. I don't know if you can save it and pull it up. You can just Google Zuckerberg selfie and you'll find it. But it's all fake people behind him.
This one.
Yeah, yeah, it's all fake people.
See, this seems like a strange picture, so it looks photoshopped to me. Obviously, it looks photoshopped. This is his Hawaiian home, by the way. I can tell from the background. So he built apparently an office that was supposed to mirror the metaverse, and he uses this as kind of like the main office picture in the metaverse or something. Anyways, regardless, these people seem a little too artificial to me because they're too happy. They're all smiling, and
Well, look at the guy on the left with the beard, right? Look at how the line, like you can see a very distinct line between his face and the woman behind him. Like you can tell
right.
it's fake. Yeah. You can tell that like the light and the texture is different for him than the two women behind him. The same thing goes for Zuckerberg and the woman smiling to his right. Just doesn't look right. None of these people look like they were in like the same lighting situation.
But this is a real picture of Zuckerberg, or this is a deep fake of Zuckerberg.
This was a real picture that I think he
Okay.
tweeted out, but all these people behind him are fake.
See, because he does look real. You can almost see from like kind of the texture of the lighting as it hits his forehead.
Yeah, but nobody
Uh,
else looks real.
and then you can tell that because everyone else seems too smooth almost. And so therefore you can kind of tell that they're not real. But you really have to look close. It is so close. I mean, and if you're not like who would know? I mean, no one even. someone trained to do this would just look at this and be like, "Oh yeah, that's real. That's definitely real." But Zuckerberg always has these weird pictures. Like, look at this one at the Louvre. I mean, I would say this is fake. Look at he's just like he kind of looks buffoonish. He's with some
Yeah,
unknown person, and then okay, so here's a picture of Zuckerberg where maybe that's not Zuckerberg. Okay, so he's at the EU Parliament, smiling as usual. When you're talking about short people, I think Zuckerberg's like 5'6", by the way. Anyways, um, yeah, Zuckerberg always takes these strange pictures, and why are there so many selfies? If you're a billionaire like Zuckerberg, why are most of your pictures just of yourself? Why aren't you with other people? Anyways,
dude,
it's a whole nother
we have some
subject.
breaking news. So Biden canceled the Alaska oil and gas uh,
No
sale.
way.
Yep,
What does that mean?
it means the gas prices are going to be like $7 a gallon.
What kind of buffoon would do this unless they're deliberately trying to destroy the economy?
They're a dim. Yeah, there you go. Uh, they are deliberately trying to crash the economy.
Yet
There's no doubt
he
about it.
he goes on about how he's combating inflation, combating high gas prices while canceling gas leases in Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico. And these are like some of the most important leases we have in this country. It, is he just a complete liar? What the hell's going on? It actually makes me angry that he lies like this.
Yeah, I mean, he's. I mean, you can see that they are pressing for civil unrest, right? They're basically coming out and telling people to go protest in front of the Supreme Court justices' homes. They're telling people to protest. They're trying to incite people, both Jen Psaki and Biden. I don't know if you saw today. Well, before I say that, so they're pulling this economic stuff, like canceling the leases, which is going to do nothing but drive gas prices higher. They're doing nothing to alleviate supply chain issues. They basically legalized um, shoplifting
Yeah, they
in
have.
major cities. And I don't know if you saw this today, but in their foreign relations documents or the foreign relations outline for the State Department between the United States and Taiwan, they removed lines about the one China policy. And China came out today and was absolutely hammering the US. And so we are inching, right? Like, what there couldn't be a worse time to antagonize China. And
Mm-hmm.
here we are. We have an administration that is advocating for civil unrest, that is crashing the economy, and that's antagonizing, arguably the world's only other superpower, or country on the cusp of being a superpower, or has aspirations of being a superpower, I guess is the best way to put it. And we're antagonizing them. It's crazy.
Yeah, the more that I think about this, I think that Biden is the greatest. I think he was prophesized almost by the founders. They had foreshadowed an executive, a president who would try and sell this country out. And they put protections in the Constitution to afford the people the ability to protect against that. But this is exactly what Biden is doing: is he's selling this country out, and these are the tactics he's using. And everything he says will be a lie. And the only thing that gets him any sort of positive media coverage at this point is trying to be, quote, decent around people and treating people, quote, decently. Whatever that means. I guess that means like patting people on the shoulder and telling them that they're doing a good job while destroying this country. And
Yeah.
it's outrageous. It's sickening. It just I have a natural like it makes me mad, and it's so disappointing and frustrating that we have an administration that would, all politicians lie for sure. Um, all presidential administrations lie on some level, right? Or they spin stuff. But when it comes to stuff like this, and it's just so overt, and we're seeing everything being destroyed. I mean, Bitcoin is now under $30,000. We haven't seen that in a number of years. All the markets, not only in this country but around the world, are being gradually lowered, and it's all in the name of
Well,
this green initiative,
well, I
environmental
mean,
initiative.
the Green Initiative is just a proxy for what they're trying to do, and that's this transhumanist enslaving the I guess the working class, the non-predator class. Um, and it's getting crazy. I mean, I don't know if you saw about the diesel shortages. There's going to be massive. I mean, they were warning about it last week that there's going to be massive diesel shortages. Like, how are we going to have a just-in-time supply chain when we can't get diesel in the 18 wheelers?
Yeah. And do you think so? The just in time model of inventory replenishment was kind of hoisted up 6 or 7 years ago more broadly across every corporation. And maybe this went back 10 years ago, and it was always around, but it got more sort of aggressive during those periods. And my question for you, Agent X, is the people who wanted to destroy economies around the world and bring in this transhumanism stuff, were they using this just in time supply model as the way to usher this in because they knew that if they destroyed uh, these supply chains, especially with globalism, that they could basically destroy economies quicker? I don't know if that made sense, but
Well,
hopefully you know what I mean.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was something that they came up with and they implemented, right? I think it's just a product of capitalism that you don't want to have huge warehouses full of items, right? You just want to have just in time supply, so that way you're not carrying a huge overhead. Um, you're not carrying a huge liability on your books. Um, a potential liability, right? Because if you have goods in the warehouse, I guess they're technically assets, but if you can't sell them, they become liabilities. Um, but it's interesting. So right now, you're seeing all these companies. You're seeing a whiplash effect. So all these companies saw all this demand while we were in the pandemic, and they saw how the just-in-time supply chain didn't work. So they've been spending a lot of their capital building warehouses and putting stock in warehouses. But demand is already dropping on things. It's already demand is plummeting. The economy is crashing. People are stashing their money, or people are having to pay more for gas. Inflation is eating up a lot of disposable income. So these companies that have built these big warehouses during the pandemic and manufacturing plants and things like that, they're not going to need them in 6 months or a year. So then you're going to have a commercial real estate crash. You're going to have a bunch of empty warehouses and a bunch of empty factories. Like, during the pandemic, you saw a lot of companies ramping up domestically the uh, production of masks and things like that. Well, you don't need that anymore. So you see those warehouses shutting down, those manufacturing plants. But the same thing, um, is happening. Um, Same thing is happening with warehouses to store goods. There's a huge ramp up of production for things, and a huge demand during the pandemic, and um, these companies are now, uh, you know, are left holding the bag, and you're going to see a real estate crash.
Interesting. Interesting. Hey, I wanted to get your take on this Viasat hack. I don't know if you heard about this, but a lot of news came out to confirm that the Russians apparently had hacked Viasat's satellite internet system on the eve of the invasion of Ukraine because of the fact that the Ukrainian military relied on Viasat, as well as apparently a lot of these, citizens out in Ukraine that, were not really near big cities in the rural areas of Ukraine. So this came out, and my take on this is that they're kind of offering up a seed here because the next major infrastructure cyber attack they're going to blame on Russians, but it likely won't be from Russians. It'll be from the globalists. It'll be from NATO. It'll be from Western countries in general. So I think what they're trying to do is, you know, sensitize, I think, the population even more. I mean, and they did this during the election too, right? They blamed these election hacks on the Russians, and they used Trump as a target and claiming that he was in cahoots with the Russians and so forth. It just seems like another little seed. They're just ramping up to when they actually try and turn the power off, when they try and turn civil infrastructure off in general, right?
Yeah, I think they're definitely trying to make us more aware that these hacks are possible. Um, I think what you're going to see next is small outages, small hacks to prep us. Right, you're seeing it with the food processing plants,
Yeah,
these fires, which are obviously hacks. And I
clearly.
think you're
Yep.
going to start to see small power outages, um, and it's going to condition us for a massive attack. I was reading an article today, and I'm trying to remember what company it was, or no, it was a school. It was
And
oh, so there was a university, so Lincoln College, so they closed due to a ransomware attack. So you can look it up. It's wild.
what do you mean, like closing, as in like for a week or 2 weeks,
No,
or
permanently closed.
no
Permanently
way?
closed. Yeah.
What the
It says
hell?
Lincoln College was the victim of a cyber attack on December 2021 that thwarted admissions activities and hindered access to all institutional data, creating an unclear picture of fall 2022 enrollment projections.
What the hell, dude? That's wild. That is scary. I have to say, and this is
So
an all black college or predominantly black. Oh my god.
so you're going to see I don't think it's a all black
I
school. I
said
don't think it's a black
predominantly
school.
black.
Um I think what you're going to see is they're going to start targeting schools next, right?
Why schools? Because they're easy targets?
Well, it's disruption, right? It's an easy way to disrupt things. But a lot of these schools have massive endowments, so they can fork up, accumulated
Yeah,
because
that's a good
of
point. Yeah.
which they've accumulated because of federal student loans and the jacking up of tuition. And so what you're going to see is that I think you're going to see more and more ransomware attacks on universities, and you're probably going to see it on research universities, right? So you're going to see more hacks trying to get into uh, top tier research institutions to steal that research, but also to hold, also because they're financially well endowed and they can actually fork over millions and millions of dollars to get rid of a ransomware attack, unlike a hospital or a state government or even a private corporation that's operating within a budget. These universities have massive endowments of money just sitting there, usually billions of dollars.
The problem with hacking major, at least public research universities, is it draws the ire of um, like state governments. So, like the University of Wisconsin Madison is a good example, or LSU, Louisiana State University, UCLA, USC. Those are all good examples. Like the University of Minnesota operates under the same model where if they were hacked, they would go to state law enforcement, generally speaking, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know the exact procedures, but it would incur more of an in depth legal analysis. And of course, then they would go to the FBI. But the problem, I think you hit on something important here, though, is that they're going after, but but okay, let me ask you this then: if they're interested in endowments, right? So if they're interested in universities that have money that can pay, and generally private universities that they can pay privately, and they don't have to deal with a major response from the FBI, why go after a Lincoln College in Illinois, a predominantly black college that doesn't have any money? As like
Well,
an
that's why I said
example, make an
they're
example
test
out of them?
cases. No, it's because they're test cases. They're testing the waters, right? They're seeing how far these schools will go, and they start with smaller colleges to test their ransomware before they go for a bigger attack. I don't know if you saw this. If you go to the Daily Mail, Coinbase just said that all of its customers may lose their crypto because the company might go bankrupt.
Oh my God.
Their shares
Oh
fell
my God.
27% this week.
Holy shit.
Got the link? Yeah, there you go,
Dude.
man.
Holy shit. Well, there goes my retirement. If I ever had a
Yeah, man.
retirement.
It's wild. What's the price of
Oh my
Bitcoin right now?
God.
You could see, right? You could see
Oh my
institutional
God.
investors dumping Bitcoin today because it would fall like $2,000 and then it would tick back up and then it would get and then it would get crushed again. There were you could see that people were dumping it.
Well, see, now, okay. Someone, dude, I'm at a loss for words right now. This is, I guess this is what it is like to work for a company for 30 years, right? Like all these airline workers in the 70s,
But
80s, and
didn't
90s.
I tell you didn't I tell you um Didn't I tell you a few weeks ago? We started seeing these graphics cards, and I know you can't mine Bitcoin with graphics cards, right? But you saw these graphics cards suddenly flood the market, and the prices have been dropping. Like, I saw a 3070 Ti a couple weeks ago. I had it in the Amazon cart, and it was $900, and I saw it for 650 at Micro Center, and saw it again on Amazon for 650 for a 3070 Ti. Um, graphics cards are plummeting, and I told you that was an indicator that crypto was going to crash.
Yeah, you did. You predicted that to some extent, and I would say that.
Don't
Uh,
say to some extent. I predicted exactly.
well, I don't think it was directly related, however, to graphics cards. I mean, you use that as kind of a metric, but yeah, it's kind of a more global, widespread economic thing because these, especially Biden, is trying to deliberately destroy our economy. And the but okay, so this is reminiscent of Mount Gox. If you remember, this was a early crypto exchange based in Japan, and a lot of people were going through Mt. Gox because they made the process of buying Bitcoin really easy. And at that time, I don't think there were a lot of flavors of cryptocurrency. In fact, I think Bitcoin was the only cryptocurrency out there. It was 2008, 2009 time period. I actually had bought 2,000 Bitcoins from Mt. Gox, and then Mt. Gox failed. I flew to Chicago because they were in the Willis Tower at the time, the Japanese bank that was dealing with all the direct deposits and where Mt. Gox had its bank accounts at. And I went up in the Willis Tower. They let me up, took an elevator all the way up to their office. I knocked on their door of the Japanese bank because it was kind of like a corporate office because it wasn't like a retail bank. And I was like knocking on the door. They wouldn't answer. They would not answer. I called them up. They wouldn't answer. So yeah, I mean, I lost at that point because Bitcoin was so low. I had given them, I think, like $5,000 or something. I lost it all in 2008. And that was like, okay, fine. So I didn't invest in cryptocurrency for like years after that. Terrible experience.
Have you seen Luna Coin? Luna Coin has lost 16,000%. It was supposedly tied to the dollar. So people thought it was a stable investment, and it's lost 16,000%.
This is like the Bernie Madoff era of cryptocurrency. All these pyramid scheme cryptocurrencies that are going under, you're going to see.
So like tons of headlines are coming out. Coinbase earnings were bad. Worse still, the crypto exchange is now warning of bankruptcy and that it could wipe out user funds. Holy shit.
It's not good. I mean, my heart is palpitating right now because of this.
You're fucked, man. You're
I'm
fucked.
fucked for sure. There goes my retirement. Oh man. Well, it's just life, I guess. Worst things have happened to me for sure. Um, how come how come white men always get fucked now? What's the deal with that, man? How come I get fucked in everything I do?
I was reading a thread on 4chan today, right? And they were talking about how Star Trek The Next Generation is basically a like a white pill show, and basically they came to the it was like the user consensus that the show is an idealized version of the future because they expect all people to act like an upstanding white man. And I was like, holy crap. um I don't know about that, but if you think about it, man, that show, I don't agree. I don't agree with that, but that show really does paint an idealized version of the future where we don't have famine, we don't have hunger, we don't have fiat, we don't have currency anymore. We're beyond that. But then it paints these pictures of like Ferengi, which everyone has always said are a representation of like Jews, right? And they have the like they're governed by the rules of acquisition. They're definitely like poking fun at that stereotype, but yeah, no, I thought about that when you said that why do white men get screwed? It's because society has attacked the white man. We're um, we basically are outcasts now in society,
Oh, for
and
sure.
it's not fair. It's racist.
100%.
It's sexist. It's bigoted. No one should be discriminated against, and here we just let it happen.
Well, I mean, when you were growing up, do you remember like your parents winning more often than losing in terms of just like events in life? Whereas it feels like white men just lose all the time. Like everything they lose, everything is rigged against them. And this is just another example of it.
Yeah.
The only thing
I
that I
don't
win
know.
at is, and I don't even win really. I mean, I don't even know if you can call it winning. It's just like getting jobs. That's it.
Well, I don't even know about that. I mean, because
Then you're tied to working.
they Well, there's so many diversity hires, and they exclude people with white sounding names,
Are they
and
doing
that's a
that?
fact. Yes, they've done it. It's a fact. There's been tons of articles published about it, studies. Um,
Is that like all
I don't know.
fields, or is that
I
just
think in
specific fields?
um, I don't know. You have to look into it
Well,
more.
I don't want to get into my own professional experience. I've interviewed thousands of people actually in my field for what I do. And I've written probably hundreds of hire reports on those interviews, recommending or not recommending that person. Especially during the pandemic, where I think I interviewed at least 1,000 people over video chats and so forth. And again, I can't get into my own work, but I would say that there does. I can't even say anything right now on this live stream. I probably shouldn't even have brought it up, but if there's an article out there that supports this in particular fields, maybe not the fields that
Give me one
we know
second. I'll be
about,
right
but
back.
other fields.
Give me one second. I'll be right back.
Yep. It looks like this article is just like hysteria to get people emotionally alarmed about these crypto exchanges going bankrupt. But the whole idea of cryptocurrency was that the actual underlying crypto was independent of any governing body. And the problem with these exchanges is they were leveraging finance and controlling the actual underlying Bitcoin, which go. I actually read a lot about this before investing through exchanges, and I was aware of it, and I knew that, but I didn't think that we'd see such a global downturn so quickly. So yeah, I guess get all your cryptos out of Coinbase right now to save them from bankruptcy. And it's really, really, really insidious the way that this bankruptcy stuff is structured with Coinbase, because then the bankruptcy creditors get all of the Bitcoin that's there, which is just people robbing you of your own money.
Hold on. I'm gonna send you a tweet. Um, Dude, the economy is getting ready to crash. It's not. I guess it is.
I was, after I lost the 2,000 Bitcoins at Mount Gox, I was devastated. You know how devastated I was, especially when Bitcoin went up to like $50,000,
So,
$40,000. I was like, I would have been a multi millionaire.
so read what I just sent you. It's in the other chat, not the stream chat. But I sent you an image. These companies are now starting to call in loans. That's how bad the economy's getting.
Let me pull this up here. I'm going to send it to this computer. Hey, did you notice the other thing? That no one is viewing the live stream suddenly? Weird.
I know we're getting censored. We're getting censored, man.
I wonder if people are actually watching, but YouTube is shadow banning those numbers for us so that we can't see and it's not public.
Probably is.
Because, before I wasn't even seeing chats live, they would only come up after the fact.
Yep.
Weird.
I think we're definitely getting censored.
Weird. We're not even talking about anything that's controversial generally. All right, let me pull this up. There it is. Here it is. Okay, do you want me to read this, or do you want to read it, or do you want to just
You can read it.
can summarize it? I don't really want to read it. What does this mean? I'm kind of reading through this right now. Hold on.
So the woman took out a loan against her brokerage account, and before she even made the first payment, Schwab recalled it um, because it's down. She had 1.1 million in her account, and it's down 230,000. She took a $750,000 loan against her brokerage account to buy a commercial residential property. Um,
Oh, so they want her basically to lose $230,000 in the matter of a few weeks simply because she took a loan out, and the bank is basically making a margin call on her over a real estate-based collateral loan against her brokerage account.
yeah, because her brokerage account has gone down in value the past couple weeks, and it's basically forcing her to take a loss, right? So if she
Mm-hmm.
sells her stock, she has to sells her what she has in her brokerage account. She'll have to take a $230,000 loss, and she says she has to keep at least 500K in her brokerage account to pay the capital gains from the sale of her house, which is what why she has $1.1 million. And she can't get a conventional loan because she's a freelance photographer
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and a couple years behind on her tax returns.
I like how
Um,
she throws that in there. Yeah, this is
so,
awful. I feel so bad for her, and you're like, okay, well, file a lawsuit against Schwab.
well, I mean, they have the right to recall the funds, right? Um,
Do they? I mean, I'm
yeah,
not familiar with this. Is she? Well, I guess can they do that at any time, or is there certain time windows, like 6 months
I mean, they
after?
can recall. I mean, they have default provisions, and well, if she borrowed it on margin, right,
Yeah,
then
they can do it at any point.
they can pretty much do it whenever they want, because they can take risk into
That's a
account.
danger. Yeah, of these
So,
collateral margin loans on your financial accounts, like a brokerage account or something. Yeah, that's a big danger. She didn't play the
but
market very well.
no, but I think what you're going to see is a lot of people. This happened to a lot of people, right? So I think you're going to see a housing crash. I think you're going to see. Um, I think you're just going to see a recalling questionable debt like this across the board. It's going to crash the economy, man. I'm telling you, the economy is about to be crashed.
It was scary for sure. Um, wow, I'm floored right now. Hearing about
Matt
Coinbase.
Gates, Matt Gates just, I guess he sent it out a while ago. He sent out an epic tweet. How many women rallying against overturning Roe v. Wade are overeducated, underloved millennials who sadly return from protests to a lonely microwave dinner with their cats and no Bumble matches? Damn, harsh, man.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I was gonna actually touch on that a little bit. So I've been watching some YouTube videos and other, mainstream media content about these protests. And why is it always older women who aren't going to get pregnant, or overweight women who are unable to find men? What's going on with that? Why is it always women who are not ever going to get pregnant, are, for lack of a better word,
Well,
objectively
that's the meme,
unattractive?
right? That's the meme that's been going around the past few days. Is it, these women who claim they're going on sex strikes? It's like, okay, well, nobody wanted to have sex with you anyways. Good for you.
Right.
And all the hot women who are pro life are like wanting to get down, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They're happy
definitely.
about this
Or
because
they're,
they're
and
usually
they're
like
responsible,
super
right? They're
hot,
not going to just go and have children with some random guy, right?
right? I don't know. I just
It's strange. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased on this particular issue, because I'm completely 100% pro life and I believe abortion is murder for the most part. Um, it it just seems like there's a lot of ugly people protesting on the other side and people who are never, and even the men. I mean, like, I think they're just like single simps, aren't they? Guys who are just completely beta males. Um,
simps, right? You know, the guys who are saying they're going to get vasectomies and show solidarity. I mean, you know, like, uh, um, I saw a really bad tweet. It was like, um, you know, we're going to punish intelligent working women because now they can't have an abortion because they had one mistake after an office Christmas party. It's like, come on, man, be responsible. We're in the 21st century here, you know? It's like people should be responsible with what they do and their actions. Um, it's wild that we have these uh, I guess it's really hyperbole, right? When people talk like that, it's just rhetoric. But if that's how people really act, you know, we need to grow up.
well, and
I
why?
was well. Let me say this. So I was thinking about this the other day, right? So the Romans were on the cusp of an industrial revolution, right? The industrial revolution that we eventually got to, you know, in the 1800s. So they were on the cusp of it, right? But their problem was that they were more focused on these exotic sexual things, on having more than two genders. They got really distracted, and the average IQ of the population went down, and it killed any chance of having an industrial revolution and basically sent us into the dark ages for, you know, centuries. And that's exactly what's happening now, right? Is the average IQ of the population, in particular Americans, is declining
That's true for
pretty
sure.
precipitously. A lot of it is because we don't teach kids, you know, we don't teach kids in schools the things they need to learn to be successful so they can maintain and develop new technology. And you can see that with the way that technology is stagnated over the past 22 years now. I mean, you know, everything is just an incremental advance. You haven't seen a new, you know, blown out technology. Everything stumbles. VR stumbles. Um, you know, augmented reality stumbles. You know, all you see is basically um, iterations on the computer and the smartphone, which are you know, basically coming to an end because you have the end of Moore's law. Um, there's only so much uh, thermal heat that a chip can take. So you have that issue. But, you know, in schools, we're teaching kids, you know, about gender identity instead of teaching them arithmetic and science. Um, you know, you have the purpose, you're feeding people very unhealthy things. Everybody has processed food. You know, with this whole uh, baby food shortage. You know, why aren't women breastfeeding? It's so much more. It's like proven scientifically to be more healthy to breastfeed.
Hey, did you know
Um,
about Bill Gates and his breast milk startup?
I think I heard it in passing.
Okay, so what's interesting about that is that, right now we're dealing with a huge, mothers are dealing with a huge shortage of baby formula, right? And Marjorie Taylor Greene did kind of like a grandstanding speech in Congress about this while we're sending $50 billion to Ukraine. But so the reason, this is kind of a conspiracy theory, but Bill Gates said that he's going to launch his lab grown human breast milk. It's a startup that he funded, And suddenly we have shortages in actual baby formula. And there's been a lot of propaganda trying to convince women not to actually breastfeed children. And so it's like this is Bond villain type stuff where you have Bill Gates basically trying to destroy any competition to his funded companies.
Well, I don't know. I think it's too.
That's a
I don't think
conspiracy
that.
theory for sure.
Right, but I
But
don't think it's but I don't think that his stuff is so far along. I think
right,
that it's more to do with supply chain and people going in and hoarding, and then you have a slingshot effect. You'll have a surplus of baby food here pretty soon. But going back to what I was saying is our population is the IQ is going down.
it's an
There's
institutional problem.
lessons.
Yes, it's
It's
a
an
fundamental
yes.
problem.
We're not focused on innovation, the sciences. We are focused on political problems and political
Wrangling.
division.
Yep.
Um, and the same issues that were happening with the Romans and I mean, look, fortunately, we got a little bit further. We actually got to the Industrial Revolution, but we're declining as a species again. And I think you're going to see, unless we can really pull ourselves up, pull ourselves out of this hole, we are going to we're going to see the crash of society. And what I find interesting, you know, I was talking about Star Trek, right? Being the Star Trek: The Next Generation being like the idealized future, but go and look at how people interact. Right? People interact on that show with professionalism. Um, it's constantly treating people as if they're competent and
Mm-hmm.
if they're
Mm-hmm.
trustworthy and treating people like adults. Now, think about how that show would be if it was produced today. Uh, you'd have Captain Picard dressing down Worf, and instead of Worf taking it as constructive criticism and using it to be more capable in carrying out his duties, what would he do today? He would run to his room and cry and whine to Data about how mean Captain Picard is being to him, and that's the way we treat people today.
Okay. So to attach onto that theory, I would say feminism in the last 50 years has disrupted society in the sense that, again, I am no expert on feminism, and whatever I say here probably will be used against me at some point. But I would argue, however, though, that women were always on a pedestal in society, and men were raised to treat women as if women were, one level. You needed to treat women like one level better, right? And feminism has somehow brainwashed women into believing that they have to compete with men in the workplace. They have to provide for themselves, which provides women with independence. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, of course. But the problem is that women no longer believe, as far as I know, that they're on a pedestal, that men are there to provide for women, provide for families, protect women in general. And I think that's really a core problem with feminism is that it's brainwashed women into believing that they have to be equal to men. And women, in my opinion at least, have always been on a pedestal. And that's how societies thrive. If you look at the Roman society, where did all the money come from those societies? It was soldiers, it was infrastructure building. Roman women were at home taking care of families. Men came back with money to provide for their families, to give to women, and that's how families and society thrived. And now, what they're doing is they're trying to teach women into believing that, women can be the sole breadwinner, and women are exhausted,
Well,
aren't they? I mean, I'm
well,
not a
no, it all goes back to dismantling the traditional family unit, right? It's been proven, throughout human history that the nuclear family is what makes humans successful. Um, and you've seen this agenda to push us away from the nuclear family. And even when a nuclear family is created, there's so much tension on men and women to get a divorce, whether it be just through promiscuity
That's
or
true.
just through conflict or what. There's this
Minor.
emphasis. There's an emphasis um, to basically break down, not only to stop the family, the nuclear family from forming, but when it is formed, to rip it apart and rip it apart to shreds. And it's just a symptom, right, of that, and injecting the government in every portion of our lives through that. And it's really sick. But hold on, I want you to play this Star Trek clip, man. Just think about how like somebody today would handle this. Like this is how you handle something. You handle it professionally. Let me get the chat up. Um,
Well, I think you did hit on something there where women are then given an incentive to divorce and create disruptions in family based on minor disagreements, minor aberrations in families.
well, right, and you also see this push for women to go into the workforce, which delays the nuclear family, and you have smaller family sizes. You have smaller family sizes. You have less healthy babies, which is contributing to lower IQs. Um, Women are not having children in their, in the ideal years. So you see more complications with pregnancies, more complications with births. It's a problem, and we're straying away from our nature, and it's really, really going to lead to the downfall of our society.
Well, let's play this clip, and I want to get your analysis on the other side of what you think
So
will
you need
happen
to
in terms of society. I
you
mean,
need
what?
so you need to take lessons from this, because you need to learn how to be an effective second in command.
Nah. I am the youngest person in my family. I've always been used to dealing with other arrogant egos and people trying to tell me what to do and boss me around. So I'm very actually well aware of that position in my own family. So let's play this clip.
So you think this is their flight plan?
Yes. If I am correct, the mercenary ship is headed toward these coordinates in the Hyerland sector.
Their maximum speed is warp 8.7. It would take them at least 14 hours to reach that position.
We could be there in 5.
Make it so.
Make it so.
Finally.
Make it so,
Full-
Commander Brock.
Set a course
Full
for the
speed ahead.
Hyerland sector and engage at warp 9.
Aye, sir. Lieutenant.
This is me right here.
Of course.
I need to see you, Brock, in the ready room. You're gonna get dressed down. You need to treat your captain with some respect.
Lieutenant, I am dissatisfied with your performance as first officer.
May I ask in what way?
Now stop it right there.
You
Stop that
continually
right there.
question my order.
Stop that. So if this was happening in a modern day setting, you would have either the person breaking down into tears, sharing their feelings about how hurt they are that somebody uh, criticized their performance, or on the other end, the person would ape out, right, and start throwing punches and acting nuts. You wouldn't have this, right?
You are
Man,
such a dick.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck,
You are
man?
a
What the
dick.
fuck?
You are a fucking
Uh,
dick.
It's true. You would have
You are
people
a
just
fucking
totally
dick.
going bonkers. Just totally
I'm on I'm on the verge of shutting this down right now.
just totally aping out, man. And it's true. It's absolutely true,
You
man.
are such
You
a
would
fucking dick. I can't believe you.
It's absolutely true that you would have that. And you wouldn't have somebody who's like, taking constructive criticism. It would either be breaking down and having to share their feelings in a hallway somewhere with Jordy, or just totally aping out. All
My
right,
orders in
finish it.
front of the crew. I do not believe this is appropriate behavior.
With all due respect, sir, I have always felt free to voice my opinions, even when they differ from those of Captain Picard or Commander Riker.
That is
No ape
true.
out yet.
But in those situations, you are acting as head of security, not as first officer. The primary role of the second in command is to carry out the decisions of the captain. In this case, me.
But
That's right, me.
is it not
Brock.
my duty to offer you alternatives?
Yes. But once I have made a decision, it is your job to carry it out, regardless of how you may personally feel. Any further objection should be given to me in private, not in front of the crew. I do not recall Commander Riker ever publicly showing irritation with his captain as you did a moment ago.
No, sir.
If you do not feel capable of carrying out this role, I will assign it to Commander LaForge and return you to tactical. I would not enter it into your record as a reprimand, simply as a transfer.
I would prefer to remain at my current post.
Then I expect you to conform to the guidelines I have laid out.
Aye, sir.
Dismissed. Mr. Worf,
This is you next. This is you next. This is
I
you.
am sorry if I have ended our friendship.
Sir, it is I who has jeopardized our friendship, not you.
Look how mature this is, man.
If you will overlook this incident, I would like to continue to consider you my friend.
I would like that as well.
Thank you, sir.
Dude, no beta bullshit here, man. Just two straight up alphas. Settling a little tiff. Dude, seriously, man, if that was written today, you either have somebody crying in a hallway talking about their feelings or a complete ape out.
I have no comments on this.
You know it, man. You know it. Look, that's how we should be behaving.
Well, what do you think's going to happen with society?
It's gonna
For
collapse.
this breakdown. But what does that collapse look like?
I think you're gonna see. I mean, as I said, the United States is antagonizing China. They really are, man. China came out hard today against the U.S. And I think you're gonna see. I think you're going to see World War III. I think you're going to see a lot of the population annihilated because of these corrupt governments. I mean, they're talking about nuclear war now like it's inevitable. And I think you're going to see some crazy stuff.
What's if you had plenty of money, what would you do? Where would you go? What's the safest place to be right now?
I don't know. I don't think there's any place safe to be. I mean, you could go to like some remote African country, but then you have a chance you're going to get your head cut off by some whacked out radical group, right? Middle East doesn't look promising. You're probably going to have overcrowding and disease in South Asia. You know, if you go to China or another Asian country, you're probably going to be, you know, particularly China, they're going to pressure you out. You're going to be under constant surveillance as a foreigner. You're not going to be able to purchase things that you know, certain things. You know, Europe is probably going to be the battlefield. I wouldn't want to be there. I mean, probably the best thing to do is get a cabin in Montana and hope for the best.
Yeah, there's a line from The Hunt for Red October with your boy Alec Baldwin. And the Russian captain of the submarine, I think, said something like, and it was played by, what's his name? The James Bond character. I'm forgetting his name right now. The Scottish actor. But the Russian captain of the submarine says something like, you know, if he's going to retire, he wants to get a farm or a cabin in Montana. So there you go. Montana is probably the best place to be, or Alaska or something, unless you have some hideout in a mountain. But yeah,
So hey, let me ask you something. So I guess the Queen of England didn't show up, or the Queen of Great Britain didn't show up to the opening of Parliament yesterday.
oh really?
So there's a theory going around that she's been dead for months, and that these videos that she's been releasing. I don't know if you want to pull up one of the videos,
Sure.
but we were talking about fake people AI. Those videos definitely look fake. They look like an artificially generated person.
Let's see. What should I search for? Queen
I just go to
Elizabeth.
YouTube and search for Queen Elizabeth. Um, yeah, Queen Elizabeth speech or something like that. 6 months ago,
Opening of
yeah.
Parliament.
No, the one below that,
Queen's
probably.
speech at the COP26 evening reception.
Thank you, Prime Minister Holness, for your kind words of introduction.
Doesn't it look fake?
I'm delighted to welcome you
Like the
all
background looks
to the
fake.
26th United
Her
Nations
face looks
Climate
fake.
Change Conference. And it is perhaps fitting that you have come
Back
together in Glasgow,
round does look
once the
fake.
heartland of the Industrial Revolution, but now a place to address climate change. This is a duty I'm especially happy
Queen
to
Elizabeth
discharge,
is like 90 or
as the
91.
impact of the environment on
96.
human progress
Oh wow.
was a subject close to the
Here's the
heart
thing.
of my dear late husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh.
Here's what makes it seem fake to me is that she's 96 years old, and I've always been a fan of Queen Elizabeth, but she seems almost too competent for being 96, don't you think? I mean, she seems like very cerebral, focused. I realize she's always been in good health, generally up until like the age of 85. She's had a few issues here and there, but she seems almost like most people who are 96 years old have, moderate stage dementia at least that I've seen in the U.S. And maybe that's because of the chemicals they put in the food and everything else and the stress that we deal with. But in the
Dude, here,
UK,
let me send you
96
this.
years old.
Let me send you this one. This one. I don't think that it's that,
remember
man. I think
well that in
look at the one I just sent
1969,
you. The one I just sent you in the chat is completely fake. You can see the digital artifacts around her face. You have to go into like a minute or so.
And
Or
I
go
and his
further.
whole family.
Yeah.
listen, I know he would want us to enjoy Christmas.
So
He felt
fake,
his
man.
presence, as we, like millions
The
around
background
the
looks
world,
fake. Her
readied
face looks
ourselves
fake.
for Christmas. While COVID again means we can't celebrate quite as we may have wished, we can
You know
still
what's
enjoy the many
interesting
happy traditions.
is this deep
Be it
faked
the
or is
singing
this
of carols,
totally an AI
as
generated
long as the
scene?
tune is well known, decorating the tree, giving and receiving presents,
I can.
or watching a favorite film where we
The
already
background
know
does
the
look
ending.
fake.
It's no surprise that
Yeah, it does
families
seem a
so
little
often
fake for sure.
treasure their Christmas routines.
Definitely.
Yeah, the question is it a deep fake? Is there somebody sitting there and they deep faked her face, or is that a totally AI generated person? I'm leaning more towards totally AI.
Why though? What's the motive? Why would the monarchy in the UK and
Because they
England
don't want
specifically?
Prince Charles to be king.
Why? Because they are afraid of.
Well, because he murdered Diana and he's a creepy pedo.
And right before this happened, what's his name went to LA, right? My memory lately. I used to know all these names like that. Not Prince William, but the other one, the younger one. Went to LA with his wife. Meghan Markle?
Yep. Prince Harry.
Harry, that's right, Harry. So Prince Harry went to LA. Um, why? What's the connection there? Did he see this coming? That
Probably.
they were trying to prevent his father from becoming king?
I think they probably saw how
Corrupt?
probably corrupt it was. They saw what was going on behind the scenes. Markle probably didn't want any of it. Who knows, man? I mean, they said that they had to leave because they were being racist,
Yeah, just a
but
smoke
who
screen.
knows?
Here's the other thing. You know, they've long said that the monarchy and the queen doesn't have any real power in the UK, but she's probably uh, even more powerful than the prime minister at times, depending on the issue. I mean, in terms of they trained her to be a mouthpiece for the West, right? That was her true power, was a propaganda piece. But she plays a huge role in policy. I mean, she has, like, for example, she has a legal right to pardon people. She can do that anytime she wants. Anybody. She can supersede the prime minister. So there you go. Anyways, she does have some legal rights.
Yep. Yeah, dude.
Anyways,
I don't know what to
interesting.
say about it. Dude, I can't believe this stream has been totally nerfed.
I can't either. It's weird.
YouTube, man. Fuck off. Hey, YouTube. Susan Wojcicki. Fuck off.
Yeah. Hey, funny thing about Google and YouTube, their Pixel Watch. I forgot to talk about this. I think I talked about this a little bit on my supplemental channel, but they said that it was leaked in a restaurant. I talked to my sources about this. Left a prototype Google Watch. No one cares about the Google Pixel Watch, by the way, so it doesn't really matter. But in terms of YouTube censoring the stream, I wanted to just say that Google is a corrupt organization that created a false story about leaking its Google Pixel Watch at a restaurant in Silicon Valley. So I think in San Mateo or even like Mountain View, wherever. Yeah, so they tried to copy Apple, and they're a bunch of con artists. This is a classic propaganda way to try and create buzz for your shitty watch that they're releasing. So yeah, fuck YouTube for shadow
Well,
banning this stream.
Google is at the core of a lot of the problems we're having in this country. They're really a monopoly power in the tech space. Um, and when you look at the fact that a lot of these tech companies move in tandem, like Twitter, Facebook. I mean, Facebook is not really, but Twitter. Um, a lot of the hardware or the more software related companies like Cisco, companies like that, they all move in tandem, right?
Palo Alto,
And yeah, it's an oligarchy, and
F5.
um, exactly. And there's a real problem with the tech sphere and the negative influence it's had on society.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to illustrate some of the corruption coming out of Google. It's not just shadow banning and uh, fraudulently lying about its stats and controlling the political discourse and everything else that's done to society in terms of like creating these slave farms in China, creating iPhones and so forth or MacBooks. But yeah, I mean, they just willingly lie. They'll do anything um, to create this transhumanism concept. And at this point, um, fortunately, it's real. So, anyways, I'll stop talking about that. Hey, do you have anything else to talk about? It's about 10:30. We went on a little bit long here. I don't want to keep you.
No, man, I'm exhausted. I have many things to do tomorrow, so
Me
let's
too.
shut it down. I'm pretty pissed about YouTube censoring the shit
Me
out of
too.
us.
Me too. All right. Well, if you're watching this stream later on, please do subscribe to the channel and like the video, and we will see you either tomorrow or later this week. So thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye.